The silence of deep space shattered like brittle glass as the massive battleship emerged from quantum fold, its hull gleaming with a defiance that spoke of humanity's unyielding spirit. Captain Elena Rodriguez gripped the command chair, her weathered hands betraying decades of interstellar conflict that had etched themselves into every callus and scar. Around her, the bridge crew moved with the precision of warriors who had long since stopped counting the battles they'd survived. 30 years of war had transformed humanity from a struggling species on the brink of self-destruction to the most feared military force in the known galaxy. The Council, that grand assembly of alien races who had once dismissed humans as primitive upstarts, now trembled at the mere whisper of an approaching human fleet. They had never understood the raw determination that burned at the core of human existence, a flame that refused to be extinguished no matter the cost. The view screen displayed the massive alien megastructure floating before them, a testament to centuries of technological supremacy. Intricate crystalline networks pulsed with energy, surrounded by defensive platforms that had repelled countless invasion attempts. But this time was different. This time, humanity wasn't just attacking. They were delivering a message that would echo through the cosmos. Elena's second-in-command, Lieutenant David Chen, broke the tense silence. Weapon systems charged, quantum disruptors at maximum capacity. His voice carried a hint of anticipation, a barely contained excitement that resonated with every human who had watched their civilization pushed to the absolute limit. They had learned the hard way that survival meant becoming something more than they were, something unbreakable. The war hadn't begun with humanity as the aggressors. It started when the first alien contact arrived, not with a message of peace, but with a declaration of human obsolescence. The Council had deemed Earth's population surplus, its resources ripe for harvesting. They believed humanity would submit, would quietly fade into the background of galactic history. They were wrong. What followed was a conflict that would be remembered for millennia. Humanity didn't just fight. They transformed. Every defeat became a lesson, every lost colony a fuel for innovation. Military technology leaped forward in years what would have taken other species centuries. Quantum folding, adaptive armor, weapons that could shatter planetary cores, all born from the crucible of near extinction. Now, with the alien megastructure filling the view screen, Elena knew this moment was more than just another battle. This was humanity's statement to the universe, a declaration that they would no longer be victims, no longer be considered a species to be controlled or eliminated. The battleship's weapons hummed with potential, a predator poised to strike. Targeting systems locked, Chen reported, his fingers hovering over the command interface. The bridge crew held their collective breath, decades of conflict compressed into this single moment. Millions of lives lost, entire worlds reduced to cosmic dust, all leading to this precise instant. Elena's eyes narrowed, reflecting the cold calculation of a commander who had seen too much, lost too much. Her voice was calm, almost eerily so. Prepare primary quantum cascade. Full power. The order carried the weight of humanity's collective rage, its unbreakable will to survive. The alien megastructure, for all its technological marvel, seemed to sense the impending doom. Defensive systems flickered to life, a futile dance of light and energy that would soon be overwhelmed. Humanity had learned that true strength wasn't about superior technology. It was about the willingness to push beyond every conceivable limit. As the first wave of quantum disruption began to build, Elena allowed herself the smallest of smiles. The Council would learn, had always been learning, that humanity was not a species to be underestimated. They were not a civilization to be conquered. They were a force of nature, tempered by struggle, unified by an indomitable spirit that no alien force could comprehend. The universe was about to change, again. The quantum cascade built like a storm, invisible yet more destructive than any conventional weapon humanity had ever conceived. Lieutenant Chen watched the energy reading spike, his fingers tracing the holographic displays with a mixture of professional detachment and barely contained excitement. 30 years of conflict had transformed him from a wide-eyed cadet to a battle-hardened veteran who had seen the worst the galaxy could offer. Memory flickered at the edges of his consciousness. The initial invasion, when the Council first arrived. They hadn't come with open hands or diplomatic overtures. They came with cold calculations, viewing humanity as nothing more than a resource to be harvested, a species too primitive to be allowed continued existence. Those first days had been chaos. Entire cities reduced to ash, millions dead within weeks, governments crumbling under the weight of an overwhelming technological superiority. But humanity had a secret weapon that no advanced civilization could ever truly understand: desperation. Elena's voice cut through Chen's memories. Quantum cascade at 60%. Structural integrity of the megastructure showing initial stress fractures. Her tone remained clinical, but Chen knew her well enough to detect the underlying current of personal vendetta. She had lost her entire family during the initial invasion. Her parents, her younger brother, her entire hometown reduced to a radioactive crater in what was once called California. The battleship's systems hummed with an almost living energy. Adaptive nano-armor rippled across its hull, a testament to decades of reverse-engineered alien technology and human innovation. Each panel could reshape itself, absorb and redirect energy, heal from damage that would obliterate conventional spacecraft. It was more than a ship. It was humanity's collective response to near extinction. Preliminary reports from reconnaissance teams had revealed something far more complex about the megastructure than initial scans suggested. It wasn't just a military installation or a resource gathering point. Something deeper was happening, something the Council was desperately trying to keep hidden. "We're detecting multiple quantum anomalies," reported Sarah Rodriguez, the ship's lead quantum physicist and distant cousin to the captain. Her hands danced across specialized interfaces that looked more like abstract art than traditional control systems. "The structure isn't just defending itself, it's responding." The word hung in the air, leaden with implications that made even the most seasoned crew members uncomfortable. Responding suggested intelligence, suggested something beyond simple mechanical defense mechanisms. Chen felt a chill run down his spine. They were stepping into unknown territory. Humanity's journey from near extinction to galactic contenders had been brutal and transformative. The first decade of conflict saw massive losses, entire planetary colonies wiped out, billions of lives crushed under alien boots. But with each defeat, humans learned. They adapted. They transformed their entire societal structure from competitive nation-states to a unified species with a singular purpose: survival. Military academies were now crucibles of innovation. Every soldier was part scientist, part warrior. Technology developed under extreme conditions. Quantum computing merged with biological adaptation. Energy systems that could harness the fundamental forces of the universe. The Council had never anticipated how quickly humans could evolve, both technologically and strategically. "Captain," Chen's voice carried a note of caution, "we're detecting unusual energy fluctuations within the megastructure's core. It's not responding like any defensive system we've encountered before." His fingers traced holographic data streams, parsing information faster than most artificial intelligence could process. Elena's response was measured. "Continue monitoring. Do not initiate full cascade until we understand what we're dealing with." Years of experience had taught her that the most dangerous moments in combat were those filled with unexpected variables. The ship's historical database scrolled silently in a secondary display, a reminder of humanity's journey. Countless battles, each one a testament to a species that refused to be conquered. From the initial planetary defenses to the development of quantum-fold technology, every advancement had been purchased with blood and determination. Outside the view screen, the alien megastructure pulsed with an increasingly erratic energy signature. Something was definitely happening. Something that went far beyond a simple military confrontation. The quantum cascade continued to build, a storm of potential destruction waiting to be unleashed. And humanity, for the first time, was not just waiting to survive. They were preparing to understand. The quantum cascade reached 75%, and everything changed in an instant. A violent tremor ripped through the battleship's hull, not from external damage, but from something far more fundamental. Sarah Rodriguez's quantum interfaces exploded in a cascade of sparking light, her body thrown backward against the secondary control panels. "Something's interfering with our systems," she screamed, struggling to her feet. Alina's command chair locked into emergency stabilization mode, neural interfaces flickering with warning signals. The megastructure was no longer just responding. It was actively fighting back in a way no previous alien technology had ever demonstrated. Quantum entanglement readings spiked wildly, creating patterns that defied every known law of physics humanity had understood. "Full sensor sweep," Chen barked, his hands moving faster than human reflexes should allow. Augmented neural implants, a product of decades of survival-driven research, connected his consciousness directly to the ship's systems. What they revealed made no sense. The alien megastructure wasn't just a military installation. It was alive, or something impossibly close to living. Fragments of intercepted Council communications began to paint a terrifying picture. This wasn't just a battle for territorial control or resource harvesting. Something much deeper was at stake, something the Council had been hiding from every species in the galaxy. "Captain," Chen's voice carried a tremor of something between fear and excitement. "We're detecting multiple quantum signatures within the structure. They're not weapon systems. They're biological markers, but nothing like any biological system we've ever encountered." Alina's mind raced. 30 years of warfare had taught her that the universe was far stranger than humanity had ever imagined. The initial alien invasion hadn't just been about conquest. It had been about something far more complex. Something that threatened not just humanity, but the entire galactic ecosystem. The ship's adaptive nano-armor began to react strangely. Sections transformed, creating patterns that seemed to resonate with the energy pulses coming from the megastructure. It was almost as if the technology was communicating, trying to understand something beyond human comprehension. Sarah Rodriguez recovered, her augmented eyes now glowing with an unnatural blue light. Years of quantum research had changed her, transformed her into something more than a traditional scientist. "It's not just defending," she muttered, more to herself than to the crew. "It's trying to communicate." Weapon systems that had been charging suddenly fluctuated. The quantum cascade, humanity's ultimate weapon of last resort, began to behave in ways that defied all predictive models. Chen watched in horror and fascination as the energy readings started to form complex geometric patterns, almost like a language waiting to be understood. The Council's communications became more frantic. Intercepted transmissions revealed a growing panic, a sense that something far beyond their control was about to be unleashed. Humanity had always been viewed as a wild card, an unpredictable species that refused to follow expected patterns of galactic civilization. Now that unpredictability was about to reach its ultimate expression. "Full quantum isolation protocols," Alina commanded, her voice cutting through the chaos. But even she knew the words were almost meaningless now. Whatever was happening transcended traditional military strategy. The battleship was no longer just a weapon of war. It had become something else entirely. A rupture tore through the fabric of space itself. Not a conventional tear. This was something more profound. A dimensional breach that sent shockwaves through the quantum entanglement field surrounding the megastructure. Chen's augmented vision caught glimpses of impossible geometries, shapes that existed simultaneously in multiple states of reality. "Incoming transmission," Sarah announced, her voice tight with tension. "It's not from the Council, not from any known communication protocol." The transmission appeared not on their standard interfaces, but directly within the neural networks of every crew member. Images flooded their collective consciousness, fragments of a history far older than humanity, far more complex than the galactic conflicts they'd known. Memories that were not their own cascaded through their minds. Civilizations rising and falling. Entire species transformed or erased, And at the center of it all, a consciousness that defied every understanding of life, intelligence, and existence. Elena gripped her command chair, fighting against the flood of information. Whatever was happening transcended human comprehension. The megastructure was no longer just a target, it was a gateway, a threshold to something that had been waiting, watching, manipulating the entire galactic ecosystem for millennia. "We're not just fighting the Council," Chen whispered, his neural implants struggling to process the impossible data. "We're fighting something that's been playing a game we can't even begin to understand." The ship's quantum cascade, humanity's ultimate weapon, began to resonate with the incoming transmission. It was no longer just a weapon. It was becoming something else. A key. A translator. A bridge between realities that were never meant to touch. Sarah's augmented eyes blazed with an inner light. "They're offering a choice," she said, her voice distant. "But I'm not sure humanity is ready to understand what that choice means." Outside the view screen, reality itself seemed to bend. The megastructure was no longer a fixed point in space. It was becoming something fluid, something alive. And humanity stood at the precipice of a revelation that would change everything they thought they knew about their place in the universe. Reality collapsed and reformed in the same breath. Elena felt her consciousness expand beyond the physical limitations of her body, merging with the ship, with the quantum cascade, with something far beyond human comprehension. The megastructure wasn't a weapon or a military installation. It was a living archive of galactic evolution, and humanity had become its unexpected key. "We're not the target," Sarah whispered, her voice echoing through multiple layers of reality. "We're the solution." Fragments of cosmic history crashed through their collective consciousness. The Council wasn't a governing body, it was a containment mechanism. An ancient system designed to prevent a fundamental transformation that had been building for millions of years. And humanity, with its unpredictable nature and relentless adaptability, was the catalyst that would break the system wide open. Chen's neural implants overloaded, converting the impossible information into something the human mind could barely comprehend. Entire civilizations flickered like forgotten memories. Species that had risen and fallen, cosmic experiments that had been carefully controlled, maintained in a delicate balance. The quantum cascade reached 100%. But instead of destruction, something else happened entirely. The megastructure began to dissolve, not into destruction, but into pure information. Waves of data, of potential, of entire evolutionary pathways spread across the galaxy. The Council's communication networks collapsed, their carefully maintained control crumbling like ancient dust. Elena realized they were being given a choice, not just for humanity, but for every species trapped in the cosmic hierarchy. The archive was transferring its knowledge, its potential, its very essence into their collective consciousness. "We can stop this," Chen said, his hand hovering over the final cascade trigger. "No," Elena responded. "We're going to complete it." The final moment stretched between heartbeats. The ship, the crew, the entire human expedition became a conduit for something larger than any single species. Transformation rippled outward, rewriting the fundamental rules of galactic existence. And then, in the last millisecond, a final transmission emerged. Not from the megastructure, not from the Council. It came from something waiting beyond. Something that had been watching humanity's entire journey. Something that was now awakening. The real game, the transmission suggested, was only just beginning. 3 months after the event, humanity was fundamentally changed. The quantum archives transfer hadn't just been an information dump. It was a complete reimagining of human potential. Cities transformed overnight. Technological breakthroughs that would have taken centuries now emerged in days. Elena Rodriguez found herself at the center of a global transformation that no one could have predicted. Her battleship, once a weapon of war, now sat in a museum. A reminder of humanity's greatest leap forward. Chen and Sarah worked alongside her, their augmented minds processing layers of cosmic knowledge that continued to unfold. The mysterious final transmission remained their most closely guarded secret, a reminder that their journey was far from over. Planetary defenses became adaptive learning systems. Medical technology could now regenerate entire organ systems in hours. Transportation networks rekindled humanity's exploratory spirit, with quantum fold technology making interstellar travel as common as a morning commute. The scars of the initial alien invasion began to heal, replaced by a collective understanding that was both terrifying and magnificent. But something else had changed. Humanity was no longer just another species fighting for survival. They had become something more, a bridge between what was and what could be. The Council's former client races began reaching out, seeking understanding, hoping to learn from the species that had fundamentally rewritten the rules of galactic existence. Alina often found herself reflecting on the moments before the transformation. The battleship's bridge, once a place of military strategy, now felt like a distant memory. Her neural implants would occasionally flash with fragments of the cosmic archive, glimpses of civilizations long forgotten, potential futures waiting to be explored. We're not conquerors, she would tell the younger generations. We're explorers. We're translators of a cosmic language most haven't even begun to understand. The final transmission continued to haunt them. Whatever was waiting beyond, whatever intelligence had been watching, remained a mystery. But humanity had learned that mysteries were not something to be feared, but opportunities to be embraced. Humanity had started as a species fighting for survival. They had become something far more important, a species capable of transformation, of understanding, of bridging impossible distances. As the first quantum-enabled human expeditions prepared to explore beyond known space, Alina looked out at the stars. The universe was waiting, and humanity was finally ready to answer its call.